Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to have you for another episode of Uncut Threads. Today's a special one because I have everyone with me. We are our host and our guests today. And I'll just give a minute to everyone to say hello, and then we get into everything we're talking about.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be able to join everyone today. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day, wonderful Wednesday.
Okay.
Same here. It's good to see everybody. And Lisa, if you get tired of that quilt behind you, I'll send you my address.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. So glad to be here. We'll have a great discussion today.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. So our topic for today is industry and innovation. We're looking at sustainability. Is it a must-have or marketing trend? Is the focus of eco-friendly quilting a sincere shift, or is it just a trend? And I think we were requesting for you to take a photo of your scraps, and share with us how you currently minimize waste and ethically dispose of fabric remnants. So for me, I will say our relationship with scraps it was so new to me, when I found out fabric scraps were a thing, because we have so many from tailoring that usually just goes into landfills and it's just disposed of. It doesn't have any value. Any fabric that is less than a yard is mostly regarded as scrap over here because it cannot really be used for dressmaking, and we're not into like patchwork for clothing. So anything usually less than a yard, if you don't have a child or a baby you can make a tiny dress or shirt for, it usually just gets trashed. So I was really surprised to find that quilting made use of tiny pieces, of fabrics. So I don't know. So I don't think I'm the best person to kind of answer that question. So I'll throw it back and hear what the other hosts have to say. Yeah. What do we think about scraps? Is it is it sincere? Is it a proper shift, when people attempt to use their fabric waste in their art or in quilting? Is it sincere? Is it something that is here to stay? Or is it just a trend that will phase out? I think that's the question for today.
I'll go first. I think that it's not a trend. I think feels like society is leaning towards being conscious of the earth and recycling and repurposing and trying to save Mother Earth by way of protecting our climate and all of that kind of thing. So I kind of feel like it's not a trend. Hopefully it's not, because there is a lot of waste that does take place. And I would hope that there'll be creative ways. I mean, from what I see, people are using creative ways to recycle, reuse, and repurpose fabrics. And so there are many projects that can be done using fabrics. So hopefully it's not a trend. Hopefully it's a lifelong kind of thing that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, I can say for me that it's definitely not a trend. It's part of my style. It's part of my quilting. I love scraps. No piece of fabric ever leaves my home if it is at least 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. I will use it in a quilt some way, somehow. I like scrappy. I like collage. And then anything else that isn't usable or can't be used for a quilt, my guild and I, we actually take all of our scraps and we make dog beds with them. And so everything gets stuffed in there. So we never throw anything out. We find a way to reuse.
I'm the same as Cheryl. I don't consider anything really a scrap. Everything is something I might need later, no matter what it is. But with that said, my group also does the dog beds. So when we get together once a month, we have a big basket. And every time we trim fabric or cut something wrong or whatever, we just throw it in there. And then when it's full, somebody takes it and makes dog beds out of it. What I also do, I love scrap quilts, and we have some slides that Lisa is going to show in a little bit. But what I also do is I'm a gardener and I compost. So I have a little bag by my sewing machine. When I snip threads, I put all my little threads in there. And then my threads go into my compost. Then my compost goes into my garden. And the threads that have not been decomposed or composted, the birds pick out and use for their nests. So I feel like I try to keep everything on my little 1/3 acre of God's green earth. I mean, I do have some things that I throw out, like selvages and things like that. But for the most part, I really have very little trash. And like Cheryl, I love scrap quilts. I also just want to say, I don't think in America it's a trend. I think we've always done patchwork as opposed to quilters in other countries that came into it maybe a little bit later or did like whole cloth quilts like in Wales and the UK. But America has always been a place of patchwork. Partly, I mean, starting with necessity because people didn't have an option to go by fabric. They had to use whatever was trimmed from anything, curtains, clothing, it didn't matter. So then when quilt shops opened and we could start purchasing fabric, that idea of just putting together a bunch of different things has always been a very American idea, I think.
Hmm. Well, that's really interesting to hear. I think on this one, I'll just say I'm kind of like unfortunately, I'm on the opposite side. I'm more like a snob because of that's because of my culture and what I see around me. I cannot imagine having fabric and going after scraps. So I'm actually very careless with my scraps. If it's below a certain size, I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And I just throw it away. Another thing is, if I decide to keep scraps, it's going to be a little too much for me. I'm sure you've heard from so many people who have been here that if you go to the tailor's shop, you find, I mean, the tailors are so overwhelmed that when you actually come to get scraps from them, they are so grateful because you're saving them from the stress of disposal. They don't have to sweep so much. They don't have to pack so much to the dumpster. So they're actually grateful to have people come and take scraps from them. The reason why I don't like go for scraps is because sometimes you're not 100% sure of the quality of the scraps and of the fabrics, and taking all of that in and having to sit and sort through, making sure it's 100% cotton and all of that got a little bit too much for me. So I actually was so enthusiastic before, but after a while I wilted. I couldn't just do that. So I'm a bit of a snob. And I just didn't, I mean, it wouldn't be fair for me to send my pictures of my scraps. I would win hands down, right? So yeah, I would win. So I didn't do that, but storage is another problem. And if I do keep them, how would I store all of that? It will be just too overwhelming, so I can't imagine like going through scraps to find something for me to do. So but it makes a lot of sense for collage, especially when you're talking about the portraits, and all manner of collages. I think scraps make a whole lot of sense because that gives you a variety with which you can work with. So I think for that, maybe I can lean towards that, but otherwise, I mean, I get fascinated sometimes on Instagram. You see some quilters with their huge bag of scraps and the iron, and they're ironing them and sorting them. That is so beyond me, but I like the fact that you can use that for collages. I think that appeals to me. And if it is something that can catch on, just being able to store all the bits and pieces of the fabrics to get a wider variety. I think that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit, I haven't been as diligent with my scraps. They're all just, I don't know, hanging out in a tub and a this and a that. And I haven't really done any crumb quilts, so to speak, with tiny pieces because I just haven't. But maybe I can be a little more conscientious going forward about trying to, do better with my scraps. And I know that about people with the doggy beds. I've never done any of that, but but there are other options in terms of, like, here in the States, you can donate them to schools and community centers. And, there are supposedly some recycling facilities that would turn waste into new materials, or using the scraps as household items, rags, and as Bob mentioned, composting and everything. So there are a lot of things that you can do with fabric scraps, but doll making and all kinds of things. But yeah, I probably should get better at doing something with my scraps.
Yeah.
I would say I'm in the same boat as Lisa. I have boxes of scraps, but they are not organized in any way, shape, or form. So when I'm looking for scraps, I'm just digging through boxes to see what I can find. One day maybe they'll be organized by color, but right now it's kind of a free-for-all in the scrap box.
That's a job in itself to get organized. It's a lot of work, and so I can understand Miriam's point. Was like, it's another job. I was going crazy last year with, like, my fabrics were all over the place, and then when I organized them, I felt like I was being a little more productive. Not the scraps, because they're just in a bag and we just dig through them and look for a piece, here and there. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
So what I do is I do have a large tote bag of really tiny little scraps, like triangles and odd pieces, offcuts, things like that. Then anything that's 2.5 inches, which is what I make my bindings out of, and when I cut off the ends and when I trim, everything that's 2.5 inches, I have together. So that stays by itself. And then with my African fabrics, when I cut a piece and I make a quilt and then I have little pieces left over, I fold the little pieces back into the bigger piece so they all stay together. And I just have them folded in so that I know that if I need like a 5-inch square of one of them, it's sort of, rather than having to, like the lady said, go through everything. So I really only have one tote bag of true scraps. I also do mosaics, and the mosaics I do only use pieces that are 3/8 inch squares. So what I do is I get muffin tins and I cut my scraps into 3/8 inch squares, and I put like all the orange, all the blue into my little muffin tins. And it's a little OCD, but I kind of like that. I use tweezers. I mean, it's a process, but my scrap will never go down because I keep making quilts. But like I said, it's all basically staying in my house, so I don't really feel bad about it.
Wow, that's a lot. And I think I was surprised. To be honest with you, I think prior to this session, I've never really given much thought to scraps. I haven't really given much thought to scrap, but Lisa's saying that there's so many things that you can do with it. The doll making, the collages, and the dog. I mean, we don't treat our dogs so well that we're looking for beds for them. So that probably it wouldn't also catch on here, but I think the biggest effort we have made in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, is just the collages. A lot of collage artists are coming up, and you see the portraits, and the landscapes and things that they do. It really consumes a lot of scraps. But it would be nice to also see what else can anyone come up with, that they would use for scraps. I know growing up, we used to have kids. One thing was actually you didn't even know where to get football. It wasn't until much later that selling like football that kids could play with became popular. And so what would happen was they would take scraps and they would wrap it around like a huge ball and they would play with it outside. So those are some of the creative ways that I have seen scraps being used. But of course, now you can buy any sort of football anywhere. And I don't mean the American football, I mean the soccer ball, you know. So you find that anywhere. I know kids did that a lot. They would just go to the tailors and they would get some scraps and they keep winding it round till it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and it gets tight and it becomes kind of like a football. So that's one of the few ways that I have seen scraps being used, you know, but I imagine a situation where patchwork actually becomes a thing, you know, here in Africa or here in Nigeria. People would have a lot of resource. And it would almost be, once you just have your sewing machine, that's all you need. Because you can literally get the fabrics for free. People would be begging you, please just come every 2 days or every week and come and pack up all the scraps, you know, that we have around, you know. So it'll be, and Bob's thing about putting it into his compost and then having the birds pick it out and build their nest. I think that's also another unusual way, you know, of handling the scraps. So I'll just go into the chat to see the comments that are coming in. Thank you so much. Yeah, Monica, I can see Monica and Charlotte. Thank you so much for coming. So Judy says that my smallest scraps go to stuffed dog beds for shelters. I have a friend that does crumb quilts, which I have no idea. What are crumb quilts? So she gives a lot to her, but they use them for quilts to donate to local charities. Okay, Monica says that she keeps her scraps in Ziploc bags, but right now they're not organized. So I think we all have that in common, you know. Charlotte says that she actually orders her scraps of fabrics and batiks when she wants to use them for products. And Judy also says that they trade them at their guild meetings. You know, they trade scraps. I think that's really interesting. That's really, really interesting. Miss Valerie says that her scraps are in a bin. She tries to organize them, but it takes too much time, you know. So Miss Carol says that her sister collects scraps from her tailor in Ogbomosho. Is that what you mean, Miss Carol? So Ogbomosho is a town in Western Nigeria. Ogbomosho. That's really interesting. You know, so these are some of the thoughts that viewers are sharing in the chat. So I was asking, what is a crumb quilt?
I think Bob, is one of your slides show it?
I don't actually know what, I mean, I'm not 100% sure what a crumb quilt is. I probably have made one. Is it?
Okay. My understanding that a crumb quilt is just taking tiny little pieces, sewing them all together, and all directions, all kinds of ways, and then cutting them bigger blocks. So you could just sew the pieces together, and then you would like cut it to like a 6.5-inch block, 8.5-inch block, and then piece them together. Then
I don't think any of these slides would technically be a crumb quilt, but they're definitely scrap quilts. I mean, they're all, well, we'll see when we go through them.
Okay, yeah. So on that note, yeah, I'll just share my screen so that we can see some of the images that we have, that would relate directly to this chat. So just give me a minute while I share my screen, and we will talk about them. So I guess you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay. So kicking us off is Miss Lisa, and this is her bin of scraps. Lisa, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, that's just one of them. I tried to just showcase that I have a lot of scraps. Some are larger pieces than others, of course. I try to keep my African print scraps separate from my other fabrics. And it's just like, I don't know, I got 1, 2, 3, I don't know, 4 totes and bags and whatever full of scraps. So they're not organized, but they are smaller pieces. And this was a suitcase that I have that has a lot of scraps in there. And yeah, I have a lot, and I need to try to do something. Maybe make a crumb quilt one day. I haven't made one, but as far as I understand, you just sew little pieces together and then, cut them into bigger blocks and then sew those together and they
Why don't we
become
make
crumb
that a
quilt.
challenge? Let's do a challenge.
I think
Well,
so.
Challenge.
we have enough fabric to do that, I'm
You
sure.
absolutely do.
Yes. I
Yes.
think this will be a really good one to also maybe like have a swap, sort of a
Mhm.
swap, I could donate scraps.
Yeah.
I really could donate scraps, so I think it'd be a fun challenge, yeah.
Yes.
So onto this.
Yes, this young lady here is a friend that I met recently who takes cardboard
Oh.
and she recycles cardboard and she creates art from her cardboard and
Oh.
she uses African fabric pieces or whatever she can get her hands on to create her artwork. And this is just one particular one. I called her yesterday and I was like, oh, do you have anything I can put on for the slide presentation? And so she's a wonderful up and coming artist locally and have a lot of exhibits, and she teaches classes where she has cardboard and she goes to the senior centers and wherever and have people use the cardboard. So she recycles a lot of cardboard and creates art with her cardboard. And she likes to use fabric and whatever she can get her hands on, she uses. So this was one of her pieces that she did. And then the next one was taking African fabric and creating earrings and twine and cardboard, and I don't know how she does what she does, but that's what she does. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
This is really interesting. This is so pretty. The color and the aesthetics, how she's using the twine as a detail.
Yeah.
This is really pretty. Yeah.
And then the next one is just another set of earrings that she used. She showed me those because those were scraps that I gave her. These earrings were some fabrics that I had given her. Yeah, so this is what she's been doing lately, and she's kind of getting herself out there locally with her artwork, and she's big on recycling and saving the oceans and keeping all of this trash from going into the garbage. So she's big on that.
This is really interesting.
Mhm.
The fact that she uses so many different elements that can so easily fill up trash, and especially the cardboard. The cardboard, I think it accounts for a lot of trash, paper trash. Fortunately, it degrades, but the quantity, I think, per time is also a lot. Beautiful pieces, yeah.
Thank you.
Bob, you're up next.
Okay. So this quilt, the gray fabric, I had a lot of it, but every other piece is literally a scrap from another project that I made, and it's an improv quilt. The skinny bars were actually braids because I like sewing braids, French braids. But then I decided I would just cut them into slices and randomly just put them in. And the four patches, some of the four patches are even pieces of other fabric. I guess that's what Lisa was talking about, crumb quilts. I kind of created enough for me to cut a square so I could have a four patch, and then I just randomly sewed them in.
Wow, I think this is really beautiful. Just seeing seeing the tiny pieces come together, they kind of like almost look like single fabric, They create their own, they create their own pattern.
I also have my thing about, I don't know why people are afraid to mix their African fabrics in with their quilt shop fabrics. It seems like so many people feel it has to be one or the other, and I don't know why they can't be in the same quilt. I mean, to me, it's beautiful just to mix and match and just blend everything. So that's even the binding, if you notice, it's all different colors. Those are scraps from other bindings, from other quilts. So I just joined them and then bound this one with that.
It makes it so colorful all round, from the binding to the center of the quilts.
Yeah.
I really like it. It's beautiful.
So this one was actually for the Afro Modern Challenge, which I totally misunderstood what we were supposed to be doing. But what I wanted to do is just sew random pieces of pretty much African fabric. There's one or two that aren't. Like I had bought a, I think it was 10-inch squares from you of Bazine or yardage. But anyway, I had squares and I thought, but I didn't really have enough to do anything with per se. So I just jerry-rigged everything into fit. So if I had like a little strip, I just added something onto it to make it another piece so I could sew it to another piece. And this was fun because it's small. It's like 20 inches by 20 inches, I think, something like that, or maybe a little bit bigger. But anyway, I did some I did some rouge applique on there. I did some freeform curve piecing. I faced it, which I had never done before. I've always bound quilts, not faced it. So I thought, well, it's a small quilt. Let me experiment on it. And what a great thing to do with scraps that you already own anyway.
Yeah.
So that's how that one came about.
I think this came out, this was one of the ones that caught my attention because of the mix of fabrics, and even though it seemed like a lot, the black and white just broke it down, and just made it visually appealing, not overwhelming, and honestly, I think it's a really great piece.
I
So
use
what,
black and white as a neutral. It gives the eye a place to rest in between all of the
Yes.
craziness.
yes. So what are you doing with this quilt now? Have you gifted it out or is it in use?
I don't really give away very many of my quilts, to be honest with you. People keep asking me, what do you do with all your quilts? And I tell them, I just have them and I enjoy them.
Yes.
Occasionally I give away a quilt or I'll make a quilt specifically for someone.
Yes, for
But
someone, yeah.
honestly, less and less so. At this point, I have so many quilts in my house that if a friend were to come over and ooh and ah over something, I probably would just give it to them.
Yeah.
But I
I
just
think
have
that's
them. Yeah.
beautiful. And I just love how even when your quilts, even when you start off unintentional, it takes a direction. And at the end of the day, it's so cohesive. It just kind of like comes together. And I know a lot of them, you just start and go.
Right.
But ultimately, at the end, you actually have something that is solid, and just beautiful on its own. And I think this is one of those pieces.
Thank you.
I really love
Thank you.
it. Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's one
This
more.
one.
So this one, I had the package of Adire fabrics, but again, I had to be judicious about how I used it. So it's hard to see because they are scraps, but every one of the little half square triangles, I matched up an Adire fabric with something else I had where the color just, went to go. And I just kept going, and that was as big as I could make of the piece because I ran out. Yeah, but that was just another way to just use something. And again, I use black and white as my neutral for the background.
Okay, this is beautiful. And look at that animal skin background.
I love some animal print.
Border. Yes, yeah,
We love my animal prints.
yes. Really beautiful.
Thank
It
you.
just balances it out.
So this one, when I was talking about saving my 2.5-inch pieces, that's what those braids are made from. It's randomly, I just pulled out any 2.5-inch piece. I got my 6.5-inch by 24-inch ruler and just cut. That's why they are the size they are. But a lot of those little pieces are actually from a scrap bag that you sent me, Miriam. With one time I ordered something, you just put in a little bag of scraps in there, and I thought, well, I have to use them for something. And that's what the whole center of that quilt is, basically, of just little pieces that I sew to each other.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So happy and beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Cheryl, you're next.
I don't have a picture of my scraps, but I can tell you there are probably about 3 or 4 bags, boxes of scraps in this house. But one of my very first quilts that I made after joining Quilt Africa Tribe was the African Map Challenge. And each country is a different fabric. So I have lots and lots of scraps. So this was one of my first endeavors.
So beautiful. The white just makes it sparkle. Hey, look at my quilt.
And then here's another scrappy one that I did. And again, it's just the country of Nigeria, but each state is a different fabric. And then Abuja is the bullseye, almost in the center of the country. So
That is gorgeous, Cheryl. That
It
is
is,
gorgeous.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, this is beautiful. The
And then,
quilting, the colors, the bag,
Amazing.
everything about it is just
Yeah.
beautiful.
thank you.
Absolutely.
The
Wow.
border is actually 1-inch squares.
Mm.
So that's why I don't get rid of any of my scraps.
Exactly.
I just make a chain, and when I have something long enough to go around a quilt, then that's where those very small scraps go.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Wow. I think this is so beautiful. And this chain, it really works. It really works. It stops the center, it stops the country from floating away. It kind of like grounds it, it anchors it
Mhm.
to the white, right? And it's just so beautiful. I love it.
So it's become
I
one of
know-
my favorite types of quilting. I've done
Mm.
France, Italy.
Hmm.
I did the city of Baltimore, Maryland. All the neighborhoods were different pieces
Wow.
of fabric. So it's been kind of a fun thing to do. So that's why my
Wow.
scraps aren't leaving my house.
That's amazing. So you have all of these countries and some cities and
Yes.
state. Oh,
I haven't done the state of Maryland, but it is on my to-do list.
wow, that's beautiful.
Yes.
And
do all-
wouldn't it be just gorgeous to see all of them, like all of them on a wall or just exhibited or hung up together? I think that's really a
Mm.
great theme, you know, and a real testament of what you can do with scraps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And then there's one more quilt. This quilt is from our other host, Judy,
Oh,
and this is actually a crumb quilt. Each of her squares
Mhm.
are made up of smaller pieces of fabric. And so she's got sashing and cornerstones in between to separate each crumb square.
mm. Cool.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Very, very, very nice.
But this is a testament of patience.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
You can almost do that technique by using foundation paper piecing. It's the
Mm.
easiest way to
Okay.
make that work.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. Oh, this is beautiful.
okay.
It's just so beautiful.
Wow.
Oh,
And this is just an example of a crumb quilt, very similar to Judy's.
That's beautiful.
Yes,
It's
gorgeous.
this shadow pattern.
Mhm.
And it just really looks like it's lifting up, kind of. It's just floating.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. So this is what a crumb quilt actually looks like. So I'm going to stop share. And I think for me, one of the things that I would find very challenging using scraps outside of um collage is the piecing. Who doesn't find it trying? So I guess when you're stitching, it gets to a point where it's just kind of like stress relieving. There's a zone you get to
Mm.
that, you know, stitching just kind of becomes you literally feel it doing something to you, you know, but you have to have the space and the time and not feel rushed, you know. Is that a zone that anyone gets to easily, or because every time I try to do that, for me it hardly works because I get interrupted so often that I often get frustrated, you know, and it just it jags me up, you know. But I like when I actually have the time to just piece. I find it really restful. But my biggest memory is of being frustrated because I hardly get to that zone. So does that happen to anyone? Have you stitched and pieced so much that you transition into that zone so easily? Is piecing such tiny pieces, is it something you look forward to, or do you feel that mental block? For me, because I know I can't do a whole lot part-time, I generally feel a mental block when the pieces are so tiny. I begin to feel some tension because all I can think of is I can't do so much before I have to get up and do something, or before my attention is needed somewhere. So it actually gives me some tension, even though I know when I do have the time, I just enjoyed going and going and going and actually seeing that cathedral glass effect, that tiny pieces give to you. There's just kind of like an effect, tiny pieces of fabrics, when you stitch them together, it gives to you. I love that, but I'm hardly able to achieve it. So it's something that I want us to discuss, because sometimes you find that there are barriers, some mental blocks, that people have, that stops them from doing a particular thing. Is it easy for you to stitch smaller pieces now that maybe you have more time, you're retired, you just kind of maybe like have more sewing time as opposed to when you didn't? Or right from the beginning, it doesn't matter to you how much time you have, you're able to do that? So a lot of questions in there, but it's something that I'd like us to discuss.
Well, I'll go first. Excuse me. I'm very spoiled because I am retired and I have my own quilt studio and I'm home alone all day. So there's nobody to bother me. The challenge with sewing a lot of little pieces is trying to figure out how to press everything so that it kind of lays flat and doesn't get stretchy and distorted. So I don't have a quilt. I will have a quilt to show that I'm making now. I'm doing with bigger pieces what Cheryl was doing with chaining all these squares that I had. I just had piles of them, and I was just like all cut them all to the same size. I was like, and I don't even know what the length is. I have it pinned up on my wall, and then I'll just cut borders from that and add it to this other quilt I'm making. But I find it pretty meditative. Like this one, I had to press the seams open because there was so many seams that I couldn't have them be bunchy where the points met. And I didn't want to cut off my points. But I find it kind of meditative. But like I said, there's nobody to bother me. So I get to do it. Now, when I had my shop, it was stressful because I had a full-time job. Ironically, I was making jewelry, Lisa. That was actually my first career. But I would come home from work. Then I'd like, oh, I have to make a sample for the store now. And I would try to sew like 20 minutes a night. And then I'd get frustrated because something didn't work out and I hadn't eaten dinner. And so I understand when there's stressors or interrupters, how it could be not fun. But right now for me, I mean, I'm in the golden zone of being retired and I also have 30 years experience of quilting. So a lot of it, I don't really have to think a lot. I just can kind of like jump in and start doing.
Well, that's a good one.
I find that I am not, I don't tend to go for things that are too small, and I don't go for things that are too big. So I'm like in the middle. And so I never really attempted to do anything with tiny pieces other than collage art. And I don't mind it with collage art. I haven't tried to sew too many small pieces together, but I don't mind cutting little tiny pieces and incorporating them in a collage art type of design. So it's a difference. So I want to try. I'm going to try to make a crumb quilt with some small pieces at some point and see. But like I said, I'm not really can't really say about that experience because I haven't had that experience with sewing them together. But I find it like, just relaxing because, as Bob says, I'm retired and I can just do what I want when I want. If I want to do it, fine. I don't really have too many interruptions, and so it's relaxing whenever I get a chance to just do whatever I feel like doing.
Yeah, I like that. But I also like that you have your way, not too big, not too small. You just do what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. But I think Bob kind of like nailed the experience I was trying to share, that so many interruptions and just stressors, and you're trying to. And I think for me, a lot of the times the deadlines are mental. No one is putting any deadline on me, but I just keep feeling, oh, I should do this, at this time. And then I just get all frustrated and, oh, I just give up, But I find when say maybe I ship the kids somewhere and I have days to myself, I can just sit and I just love it. I think the word you used was meditative. I
Mhm.
find it so restful, and just stage and just love on my stage, and just imagine everything, but anything outside of that space becomes so stressful to me because I'm not doing it the way I want to do it. And I don't want, and for me, quilting is not a job, So when I have to incorporate quilting into my job, oh, it stresses me. When I have to quilt for Quilt Africa, it really stresses me. I want to quilt for myself, So I find that it just doesn't mix so well for me. Cheryl?
It is probably a stress reliever. I enjoy because some of it I can do not at the sewing machine. Cutting out those little 1.5-inch squares with a little 6-inch cutting mat and a small rotary cutter, I can literally just pump out lots of those. So there's a big stack, and then I can just sit at the machine and just go through them and go through them and go through them. And that's what I enjoy about the having the little pieces. You can just kind of zoom through them. I have another scrap project going on right now where I'm making these. They're about 4 inches, 5-inch Dresden plates, teeny tiny Dresden plates, and they have like 15 pieces of fabric in each blade. And I just take them with me. I just cut out the little wedges if I have a break or I'm at my sewing guild, and sometimes it's hard to concentrate. So that's something I can do that's mindless for me. And then zoom, and I can just, sew them all together and end up with the flowers. So when I have enough of those, I will turn them into a quilt. But right now I'm just accumulating them. But it's very much a stress reliever for me to deal with those teeny tiny pieces. And I like to take the small ones and turn them into big quilts.
Yes. I think you've hit the jackpot that we're all looking for. Just not allowing anything to get in the way, and just focusing on the joy, that it gives to you. But I think I'm still at a place where everything just bothers me. I feel this is my, I just feel this is my secret thing. This is my personal thing. And everything is conspiring against me, like really enjoying it the way, that I would love to. So thank you for sharing your perspective. I think it helps to just know that you're not alone in maybe getting frustrated, or feeling that you don't really have that much time. One of the pieces of advice I heard was from Elia Pestenanite. She said she tries to quilt even if it's just for 30 minutes before work. And she has a lot of stuff, and she does really complicated stuff. Like she pushes herself to learn techniques, and methods that are really complex, and she says, yeah, well, she's an empty nester, nobody at home, so she says she wakes up, and even if it's just for 15 minutes, she sits at her table and she does some work. And she said, you're always surprised how much you get done just cumulatively, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, in a week, that's a lot. In a month, that's a lot. In 3 months, that's a lot. So I think that's also good advice that could work for you. Maybe you're wondering how to accumulate all of those hours that you can put into your quilting. If you can find that chunk of time, where you can actually sit and so I quilt in the living room, and a lot of the times I find, and with the kids, you're always yelling over something. And so honestly, I try, but oh gosh, someone can just eat and just drop it on my table. So I really can't even say I'm laying out my stuff and I'm taking a break, or I've done this for now. I always have to pack up. It just adds to stress, and sometimes you're trying to unpack and something is going on, you know, and all of that. So there's always a lot of yelling, a lot of interruptions, a lot of checking, you know, that just interrupts my flow. So yeah, but I'm working on it, you know, and just having everybody share their work and their experiences really, it feeds me. For now, it just feeds me, you know, and lets me know that a time will come when I will have my own time,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
to do what I want to do. So yeah, lots of comments, you know, about the quilts that we showed. Bob, you know, and Lisa and Cheryl as well. And someone says they want to see, I think she said Baltimore. So I think we're going to insist on an exhibition somehow of your countries and your cities at some point. You've really stared and captured our imagination with the fact that you have, yes, Charlotte says she wants to see the Baltimore City quilts. So you have struck someone's
See what I can
fancy,
do.
all our imagination. So we're
Yes.
looking forward to it, you know. Yeah, so Judy says she also builds doll houses.
Mhm.
So she makes tiny dollhouse quilts
Oh, okay.
out of scraps, and I've seen them, and they're they're intricate. They're
Mm.
really amazing, and they're from really tiny scraps because they're like doll size, like
Mhm.
5-7 inch quilts, and she
Mhm.
actually makes them into quilts. You know, so I think that's, yeah, scraps work for them as well. So she says she also uses scraps for English paper piecing, just like Cheryl said, for the tiny pieces. So yeah, happy with all the, yes, and Montika agrees with you about it being meditative. She
Mhm.
says just stitching away, you know, on those tiny pieces, very, very meditative. So thank you so much, everyone, for the comments. I don't know, any last thing on the ethical, what do you call it, sustainable, organic, ethical methods, you know, that we can continue to do our part
I,
in saving the
I think a lot of that comes from
yeah.
manufacturers, really. It's on them, right? Because they're the ones like the cottons, right? Okay, if you use 100% cotton on something, that's sustainable because it you know, you can um recycle that and it's okay because it's a woven fabric. But the dyes that they put in the fabric, right? Are they, you know, so I don't know. It seems like a lot of this would fall on manufacturing companies and whatever to try to make things better for sustainability or to make the environment safer. Because we're
Yeah.
finding that like in our foods and all kinds of things. There's all so much talk here in the States about all of that, you know, what are they putting into our foods, our clothing, our chemicals, and I think as Americans and probably Europeans as well, I guess. I don't really know what other people do in the world. I just know here, you know, people are becoming more conscious and health conscious and trying to understand what is being done to our clothes, our foods, our environment. So
I
it's hard
remember
for us. It's hard for us. I'm sorry. It's hard for us as individuals to know because, like, wherever we source, you know, wherever we get our things from, we hope that they're done. And we hope it's done ethically. One thought I had when I was thinking about this is like not to get off the subject or anything, but like diamonds. Like my son bought his fiance a stone. He bought a lab created diamond as opposed to a real diamond because people are feeling that the real diamonds are unethically, you know,
Right.
people the way they get them is unethical. So I think that as a society, people are trying to think more, you know, about ethical things.
Yeah.
I remember when I had my shop and they first started coming out with organic cotton fabric for quilters. It was very expensive,
Mm-hmm.
a very small selection, and honestly, there was a very, very small demand for it.
Mm.
And it was never really explained or marketed properly, where why would I want to spend, $10 more for something?
Mm-hmm.
then I have this whole thing that everything else is available to me. So I think that we as individuals can try to do our part, but like Lisa said, I don't make everything. I don't create clothing and cosmetics and plastic containers and furniture. And so I would hope that the manufacturers would take it upon themselves, or that there'd be enough demand for things to change.
Yeah.
Mm.
I would say one thing you can do would be to purchase dead stock, stuff that's out of print, not going to come back. Try and use those types of fabrics, and then save your scraps and donate them to somebody or some cause somewhere. There's somebody out there or an organization or something that can most definitely use those scraps in some way, shape, or form.
I like to adopt new quilters and let them come to my studio and go shopping. I tell them, don't buy anything yet. Come see me.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes I've had four of the same ruler, because I forgot I had one, so I buy another one. And so I try to hook people up before they go out and start buying stuff on their own. It helps a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes,
And Miriam,
the-
like when we bought purchasing and you put little scraps and scrap bags, from when we purchase, which is a nice, surprise when we get them. And so that's one way of, getting scraps, because they do sell them like around here. I mean, you can buy scrap packs of, scrap fabrics and whatever, just to be able to use in small projects. And it depends on what your focus is, what you do. But like I said, for collage art, it's nice to have scraps.
Yeah. So yeah, I think all of these are like good things that we can do, and just kind of like waken the consciousness of our community or our country, or the industry. And it's interesting to find that with all the knowledge we're acquiring, the dyes are getting worse. They're getting more dangerous to the water, to the environment, and to all of that. And I think to some extent, here in Africa, we're kind of fortunate in quotes, because being third world means that you are not that technologically advanced, to have all of these things negatively impact the environment. And we also have vast areas of land that are not kind of like developed, So outside of the cities, it's basically back as it has always been. So we have that going for us. But and with the industries even dying here, you find that like sometimes you find land near textile mills, because of the dyes and the things that they use, kill off life and the fauna and the flora of a place. But we don't even have functioning mills in many countries anymore. So that usually is not a problem. You can dispose of trash in some faraway place away from where people are. There's just so much land here. So the effect on us is not so much. The consciousness of being eco anything isn't, we literally don't have it, To be honest, it's not a general consciousness in the populace. Maybe you have one or two people that champion it, but it's really not it's not foremost in our consciousness. And initially I was so excited. Oh my God, you mean you can sell these scraps? But I think as the more we go, the less I talk about scraps for sale. I really rather put them in and have people and let people have it, because I find it doesn't mean anything to me. And if I'm finding it really difficult to see any value in it. But if I can give it to you and it has value to you, then it means more to me rather than putting it on sale.
Right.
So if you've noticed, we have not even talked about scraps for sale. It's mostly we have a lot, we just stuff it in a bag, and just add it to some orders.
That's what I was saying, because I've gotten fabric from you and got the little surprise scrap bag, which is nice, because they're just for those people who you do collage or whatever, likes little small pieces, and so it's nice, but not as like selling them. But people here, you can buy scrap bags of fabric, but
and I think as we have more hands, that is something who can actually go and collect them and sort them so that you have something that makes sense. That's what stops me. I mean, I could literally have them, but I do not have the time to
manpower
collect them and to, I don't have the manpower.
Right.
So it's on the down low. But as we grow and have more hands, that is something I think that would be my contribution, to just say, look, we have all of these scraps, go here to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, gather them all, sort them, package them for me, and we can just put them in, you know, along with orders. So yeah, thank you so much for this discussion. I've learned a lot, learned what a crumb quilt is, you know, and learned the different ways that you can actually use scraps in a way that I never would have thought about it. And, you know, it just gives me ideas with our guild now taking off. You know, there are things that you can share with people, and it doesn't even become an economic barrier to say, I want to learn how to quilt. I can tell you to go around your neighborhood. You don't even have to buy anything. Go around your neighborhood. And I'm telling you, anything less than half a yard can be scraps because they don't know what to do with it. So they just chuck it out. You know, at best, they use it to clean up their sewing machines and clean up the place. It becomes like rag, you know, but people would be happy to give quilters here. Another thing that I want to ask, Bob said, new quilters, come and shop in my studio. If you have extra tools, quilting tools, consider donating it to us so that I can have a collection of materials that, you know, we can use during our meetings. You know, right? Fortunately, I'm so blessed. So everyone has been generous to me. In fact, Janice just sent me this. I'm not giving this to the Nigerian Quilters Guild. She sent me this. This is mine. I love it so much. I'm sorry, but I'm not giving them. So it's a quilt, it's a box, you know, and it written quilting on it. And then it comes with it has a rotary cutter, very pretty, with actually has blades as well. So you could consider making some donations, and then so I take this as mine to the meetings, you know. So you can consider donating rotary cutters, blades, cutting mats, rulers, you know, if you have them. I'd really appreciate it. For now, we use all my extras. I have quite a number of extras. You all have been very generous with me, and the time to use them has come. But it would be nice for people to also have like a cutting mat and you know, a ruler, basic, that they can take home with them, you know, and maybe work outside of the guild times. So just something to throw out there. If you have it and you want to, just let me know and I'll let you know how you can get that to us, so we can use that during our meetings.
Miriam, is everybody using a sewing machine at your new guild, or are some people using hand sewing needles?
No, I don't think anybody. So, I don't think anyone would use hand sewing needles because I want you to understand the cultural mindset of the people that are here. We use needles because there's no option.
Right.
So if I say, I cannot preach to them now that, oh, hand sewing is a thing.
Gotcha.
It's actually, it's, right? So yes, so unfortunately I have two machines. So as we grow, as they learn, you know, all of my equipment, I'll be shipping it to the meetings, and then we would be shipping them back. So if you understand the cultural mindset, you I couldn't possibly say, come and let's hand stitch. It would look like I'm making them suffer, or
I understand.
Quilting is hard. So we're not going to do this. You know, so I actually tell them we have machines that you can learn, and it's electric, and you don't even have to use a pedal. And so people get excited.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell them that we have a vintage singer somewhere. They do not want that. They see that in the villages all the time, you know, so the idea is to make it attractive. Let them know that this is something that is good for you, to have some downtime, you know. It could
Mm.
also be something you can use to empower yourself, you know, learn to create an income because, you know, of the possibilities that come with quilting. So yeah. All right, so that's it. Thank you so much to everyone who came and all the comments. I think we've had quite a bit of comments today. I really appreciate that. And so this brings us to the end of this episode. We'll be here again next week, same time, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. We hope that you'll be here. And don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share our episodes with anyone who you think would love our conversations. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Cheryl, for all the work that you do behind the scenes, you know, and for coming on every week to just give everyone a taste of what the quilting world holds. So thank you so much once again, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
All
Have a
right.
good week. Take care.
Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Bye. Thank you
Bye,
so much.